The attack just on the 22. Briggs, first receiver. Joyce. Zach Mackay. To Mohuni. Dummies on the right side. Beautifully done from the blind side.
So this piece of news is barely going to register on most people's radar, but unless you're a really die-hard rugby fan. But it is certainly one that should really be of concern if you love the sport in New Zealand. And of course, so that's the news that the South Canterbury has withdrawn from its Ranfurly Shield challenge with Hawke's Bay and Napier later this year, citing financial reasons. Of course, as you know, South Canterbury is based in Timaru in the South Island, and Hawke's Bay and Napier. And if you don't know New Zealand travel, the way to get around New Zealand, it's all pretty much, to get around quickly, you're going to have to fly and find between regional centres, like your Timarus, your Napiers, your Taurangas, Invercargills, etc. is very expensive and often, and you are almost certainly going to need at least 2 flights. So imagine say South Canterbury, they'd have to take a flight from Timaru to Christchurch, or I think they can fly to Wellington, one of those small planes, and then they'll connect on another flight from Wellington and Napier. There's no reason to have a direct flight between Timaru and Napier. And of course you're talking about taking about 40 people, players and staff, and it's also in the middle of the week. And you got to remember that South Canterbury, like a lot of the Heartland provinces, all the players are amateurs. They've got jobs to go to, so they're going to have to take leave. So it's a very, very costly endeavor, and it's certainly gotten worse in the post-pandemic era. And we talk about cost of living, and it is such a shame. But I guess it kind of highlights the issues around the provincial game. I split an earlier video, of course, a few months ago about the news that the NPC was not going to be the broadcast format for the NPC this year is going to be completely different. With Sky not committing to showing every single game, and the word is that all the NPC, there might be one NPC game featured per week. So imagine that for Heartland Rugby, which only just started appearing on Sky in the last couple of years. It just highlights a problem. There's some problems. Actually, there was an exclusive this morning on the New Zealand Herald, which I can't, unfortunately, it's behind a paywall, but one of the New Zealand Rugby's communication manager, I think it's Matt Manukia, who used to be on, who was a really good sports reporter on TVNZ. I think he's understood to have left. So there's a lot of issues going on, New Zealand Rugby. And of course, yes, we know there's a bit of a civil war brewing between the provinces and the national board. So this is very much another piece of evidence for the provinces that they really need some help from the national unions. There has certainly been, I think, in recent times, as you would have seen, even with Super Rugby, the national body in Wellington is trying to separate itself from provincial club rugby, I guess if you could call it that. The Super Rugby, take for example the clothing deal. Adidas is exclusively with New Zealand Rugby. It's kind of, and the Super Rugby franchises are pretty much on their own now. They've gone and signed with Classic, and I guess that's sort of like the theme of what's going on. I think we are sort of seeing a new era where the unions are now having to be more independent of the national body. I think it's been 20, 30 years with the professional game. Costs are escalating, and New Zealand Rugby is not necessarily getting the money that it needs to continue to fund the Super Rugby franchises of provincial games. And now, one idea, I guess, regionalization of the games, maybe to cut costs down. But even then, traveling, say from Invercargill to Christchurch is still going to be expensive. And of course, there's going to be the disparity because there are a lot more unions in the North Island than the South Island. So you're going to have to maybe skip a few North Island teams over to the South Island for the NPC. Who knows? But certainly bleak times. Hawke's Bay will play Wanganui instead, which I guess travel-wise for Wanganui makes sense because it's just a couple of hours down the road. They could whereas for South Canterbury, that would have been a bigger commitment, certainly taking more than 1 day off, so that's the issue there. So what are your thoughts? Is New Zealand rugby, is the national sport really in big trouble, or this is just a bit of a blip? I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, feel free to like and don't forget to subscribe.